Hello, this is Stephen Hawley Martin. Today I'll be speaking with Dr. Laurel Clark, author of many books to do with metaphysics, and former president of the College of Metaphysics in Missouri. Today we're going to learn what we can from Dr. Clark about how to develop our intuition. Dr. Clark.
What are some tips that you can give people or information on how they can become more sensitive to what's going on as far as their intuition and sixth sense is concerned?
I think, first of all, it's important for people to realize that intuition is a skill that can be learned. It's an ability that all of us have, potentially. And like any other skill, learning how to read, learning how to run a 4-minute mile, as you exercise your mind, you can develop the skill. So probably the first most important thing is for people to develop skill with undivided attention and concentration, because part of the reason why people are not aware of their intuitive potential is that their brains are really busy. It's kind of like right now there are radio stations broadcasting all over the place, and the people who are listening to this one are listening to this because they have their computer, I'm assuming, tuned to this
particular URL, yeah.
So that's how they're able to receive this. And the same thing is true with the mind. People are thinking thoughts all the time. You have to have a still mind to be able to receive the broadcasts that are receiving from other people.
Yeah.
And that's true of any intuitive ability like astral projection or clairvoyance, which is seeing the probable future. I mean, there are many different applications of it. It requires using concentration to have a still mind to be able to receive accurately.
Right. I'm speaking with Dr. Laurel Clark, who's president of the School of Metaphysics, and I've been to the School of Metaphysics a couple of times, as you know, and I've enjoyed it very much. And one of the things that I've witnessed there is having someone put, one of your professors or whatever, put another individual from the school into a kind of trance, or at least help them get into a trance-like state, and then they tap into, I guess, the Akashic Records, where they can find out about a person's past lives, or maybe it's health issues that someone has asked them to help diagnose. And I wonder, can you speak about that? How is that done?
Sure. It's a process of training. Any of your listeners who are familiar with Edgar Cayce, they're somewhat like the kinds of readings that Edgar Cayce did. We call them intuitive reports because the person who's in the mild trance state is actually reporting the knowledge that comes directly from the subconscious mind. And the two people work as a team. There's a person called the conductor who directs the intuitive reporter into the inner levels of the subconscious mind, which is where the Akashic Records is. And both people go through a fairly extensive process of training that starts with them developing skills in undivided attention and concentration, developing control of the body. They need to learn, the intuitive reporter needs to learn how to slow down their heartbeat and their breathing so that they're not distracted by their physical senses. And then the conductor actually directs the attention of the intuitive reporter to the appropriate place in subconscious mind where they draw out that information.
So there are different parts of the subconscious mind, or levels, is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
And so if I'm interested in getting a health reading to find out something, and that was often the kind of reading that Edgar Cayce did, where he apparently your subconscious mind knows everything that's going on with your body. Is that correct?
Yes, it
Would
does.
that be then a different level or a different place that the conductor would take the reader than, say, if we were investigating a past life?
Yes, the intuitive health analysis comes from a deeper place in the subconscious mind. The past life or past life crossing, there's also a past life that can tell where an entire family has been together and how that's significant to the present. That's from the Akashic Records, and that's actually from the middle point in the subconscious mind.
So the deepest point is health,
Mm-hmm.
and a middle point would be past lives. Now, I wonder why that is.
Well, the health analysis describes where a disorder begins in the mental system, and then it describes, and by disorder that means anything that's out of balance or anything that's interfering with the person being whole. And then it describes how that affects the emotions and then how it affects the physical body. The Akashic Record is kind of like a universal library that stores in the form of vibration a record of thoughts and experiences that have occurred.
Every thought, every experience, everything that's ever happened is recorded there. Is that
right.
correct?
That's
it's
correct.
like the great hard drive of the universe, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
Well, and you mentioned that families, everybody's heard, of course, and people listening to this show probably pretty familiar with the idea that you're born many times, but we do come back together with people often with whom we have incarnated before. And you say families usually or always reincarnate together. How does that work?
In most cases, a family grouping has had a significant past life where all of them were together. However, it doesn't mean that they were all in the same family. Like when I requested a family intuitive report, my father had passed away, so he wasn't included in it. It was my mother, my two sisters, and me. And the past lifetime that was significant, we had all come together in a convent, and none of us were related by blood, and we came together at different ages and at different times. My older sister and I were nuns who were part of running the convent, and our mother came in at the age of 12, and then my younger sister, I actually found she had been abandoned on the street, and so eventually all of us ended up together in this same situation, which was really quite unusual, particularly because this lifetime I was not raised with a religion, so I didn't grow up in a religious family, and yet the significant lifetime to this lifetime, it was a convent that we were together.
Well, you're not in a religion now, but you're president of the School of Metaphysics, so you certainly, and you are a minister of some kind, aren't you?
Yes, I'm a minister in the Interfaith Church of Metaphysics.
Right. Well, now, do souls kind of group together in clusters or whatever? I read a book. What was it called? Journey of Souls by, I think of Dr. Newton was his name, and he talked about how souls are at different levels of evolution, and they tend to form groups that reincarnate together and help each other evolve. Do you believe that that's true, or?
I think in some ways that is true. We each have individual will, so people always make choices about how they're going to live. The choices that we make before we're born come from the subconscious mind. And I do believe that an individual soul chooses the family, the country, the time period, even the astrological conditions of their birth. And then in the first 7 years of life, that's when we fill the brain and the conscious mind and begin to make conscious choices. So the choices that we make as we progress through our lives are then made with the conscious mind, and that is one of the benefits of developing the intuitive potential, is being able to make conscious choices that are more in alignment with the soul's needs. You know, some people report stories about having met their spouse. In fact, there's a couple I know who they met at a dance somewhere, and she spotted him across the room, and they were kind of eyeing each other, and she just went up to him and said, well, are you going to ask me to dance or not? And, shortly after that, they got together and became married. They have a wonderful relationship, and, I think that with her it was a direct intuition that she knew this man and that they needed to be together, and she had enough courage to go up to him. You know, where sometimes they make movies about people who have those kinds of experiences, but they don't respond to it. And I have another friend who, at the age of 50, has met the love of her life for the first time. They knew each other when they were kids. They went to the same church together. Their lives separated. They both married different people. They had kids. You know, after her kids were grown and in college, she got divorced, and through a remarkable set of coincidences, you could call it, they ended up reconnecting, and they're together now. So I think that things like that happen because there is a very strong urge on the part of the soul. However, it doesn't mean that fate is going to necessarily bring you together with people, because we make choices, and we can either listen to the promptings from the inner self or we can ignore them. You know, sometimes people make choices and they're not really sure why they're doing it. They just kind of feel led to pick up and move somewhere, or to, you know, work at a certain place. And then it turns out that once they're there, then there are a series of circumstances that are fortunate.
Right. So you need to be kind of in touch with yourself, with your subconscious mind, and you do that, if I'm understanding you correctly, by stilling the mind, getting meditation, I guess, really. Is that right? Are there other techniques that we should know about?
Meditation is extremely important because that is a way of listening to the inner self. There are also concentration exercises that are very important, and people can really choose any point of concentration. They can use the tip of their finger, they can use a candle flame, the second hand or the minute hand of a clock face, you know, not a digital clock, but a clock that has a face. And with even 10 minutes a day of focusing on an object, and when the mind is distracted, to very purposely remove the attention from the distractions, that's very helpful. And then throughout the day, this is a real challenge for people. It's very important to practice concentration, like not to drive and talk on your cell phone at the same time, not to multitask, because it really doesn't save time.
Yeah, usually I get myself in trouble when I multitask.
Right, everybody does, you know.
I'm speaking with Dr. Laurel Clark, president of the School of Metaphysics. Earlier in the program, I was speaking with a lady, Michelle Ivante, who told me that she's an intuitive, and she's an astrologist too, does that for a living. And she told me that she, when she was 3 years old, realized that she had a guide, I guess, a non-physical guide who has been with her and is still with her, I suppose, and communicates with her, and she can see this guide, and from time to time she's had other teachers come to her. But have you ever heard of anything like that?
I have. Actually, some years ago, in the early days of the School of Metaphysics, we used to do readings so that an individual could speak with their guide for 10 minutes. Nowadays, we don't do that. What we do is teach people a step-by-step process of directing their own attention into the inner levels so that they can communicate with their guide. Sometimes children have imaginary playmates that could actually be their guide, or sometimes they're taught it as being a guardian angel. Oftentimes, the way that people receive communication from that type of guiding presence is they would never make a decision for you. So that's something that I really urge people to be aware of, is that an entity that really is guiding you is not going to try to interfere or to make decisions for you. What they can do is give you a kind of objective perspective, or maybe nudge you in a certain way.
Right. I'm speaking with Dr. Laurel Clark. Well, we're going to have to wrap up here in a minute, and I want to make sure that everybody knows about the School of Metaphysics. It's located in Missouri, but you have branches all over. How many do you have now? 20 or something like that?
We have 16 branches in 10 states, and we actually have just launched an online program for people to learn about how to interpret dreams and actually to get certified as what we call a dreamologist, and that's for people all over the world.
Yeah. And what is the website? I know that you have www.som, that's SOM for School of Metaphysics, .org.
Right.
Is that the one to go to?
That's the one for our primary course of study, and then the dream website is dreamschool, all one word, .org.
Okay. Well, it's been very interesting talking with you again, Dr. Clark. What have you got any other pearls of wisdom before we sign off?
I just want to let people know if they're interested in intuitive reports like a health analysis or past life or family past life crossing, they can learn more about those on our website also, and we do those at a distance so they don't have to be present. They can live anywhere and have one of those done.
And I can say that I've had a couple past life readings done, and it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And what you do there is you find a past life that is relevant or somehow relates to what's going on in your life at a particular time so that it can be helpful to you. Is that right?
That's exactly right.
Well, thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
You know, I've been to the School of Metaphysics several times for weekend retreats, and it really is a great place. I highly recommend you get in touch with the people there and take advantage of what they have to offer. Well, that's about it for today. I suggest you check out my YouTube channel, though. There are a lot of really interesting videos there and new ones being posted all the time. Talk to you later.